You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast, the best in America.
Welcome to Under the Shell, presented by Inside the Black and Gold. I'm Brennan YSL.
Sam Jane.
And Michael House.
And today we're having on a Maryland legend. Guys, there's three coaches that have been around for as many years as we've been alive almost in terms of Maryland athletics. One of them is Coach Cathy Reese, the Maryland women's lacrosse head coach. She's got a team capable of winning a national title, the first for the Terps since 2019. And guys, she told us all about it and more about Maryland's future as a non-revenue team. So, Cathy, take it away.
This week, we are joined by the head women's lacrosse coach at the University of Maryland, Cathy Reese. Thank you for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
One of the news this past weekend, Corey Edmonds had passed you the all-time goals list. Is that something you were aware of? Was she aware of that? And then what was the conversations you had with her after the game?
I was only made aware from our game announcers from my meeting with them the day before. They said, if Corey scores whatever. I said, no, I have no idea. But after the game, and I told her, I'm like, I just need you to keep climbing, girl. Like, let's go. If we can get you up into those, keep climbing. That's only going to help the 26 Terps. So proud of her. She had a great game. Was limited in shot opportunities against Syracuse, but came out huge for us against Virginia. So, she's off and running and is a huge part of our offense and will be as we go through the season.
Yeah, obviously you guys just moved up to the third ranking earlier this morning. What from your eyes, obviously Corey Edmonds had played very well, as you mentioned on this past weekend, but what from your eyes through two games has worked really well for you guys?
Well, I think we're developing, we're really, our chemistry is growing. It's building. I thought we did an excellent job against Virginia on the draw. That led to more possessions. I think our defense has been playing great in both games. We've made some mistakes, so we're learning from them. We're making those adjustments. And I love how balanced we are on the offensive end scoring. Our numbers and statistics are really balanced all the way through. We saw some great things from everybody that was out there. And so two huge wins. We lost to both of these teams last year. And so for us to kind of have this crossover with the ACC and walk away with 2 wins, I'm just really proud of our effort and grit and how we were able to pull them out.
It seems, I don't want to speak for you necessarily, but it seems the transfer portal, you made a point to try to bring in some offensive talent. And it seems through 2 games, you've kind of had an abundance of that. What have you seen from some of the transfers you brought in on the offensive side? And was that a goal coming into this season?
Well, we lost Chrissy Thomas and Kate Seitz off the offensive end. And that were really, you had significant contributors. But to bring in Kristen and Keely, they both are very different players, but just bring in a sense of calmness and confidence and leadership. And that was really what we were looking for, right? To help kind of guide this offense. We were young last year. You have a lot of last year freshmen and Kayla Gilmore and Emma and Devin and Shelby and a lot of, people that were playing on the offensive end as freshmen. So just kind of have, 2 players come in that have this high level collegiate experience at playing at 2 really good programs. To just be able to come in and lead our offense has been really effective and helpful. Even a Lauren LaPointe, who played significantly more as the season went on last year, but, just putting in Keely and Kristen around the Kaylas and the Emmas and the Devins and alongside Corey, it's just helped our leadership just take on a different level.
Before we get back to the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor. The Catalyst to the Game is brought to you by Catalyst Hot Dogs. Catalyst brought the Jersey Dog to the DMV, featuring premium dry-aged Black Angus all-beef hot dogs made in Maryland, served with handmade toppings, including hot onions, relish, and their signature Texas chili sauce. And don't miss their original garlic knot dogs. Catalyst always offers vegan dogs as well as gluten-free buns. Shout out gluten-free buns, because Catalyst has food for everyone. Find them in CQ Stadium in Section 14 and the Xfinity Center in Section 210. Tell the people a hot dog is a sandwich. All right. Now here is more Under the Shell. Another part that's been successful so far is JJ Soriano in net. Her career, obviously, playing last year and then coming and stepping up and taking another step this year. What have you kind of seen from her improvement as she's, every game she plays, it seems she gets just a bit better?
Yeah, well, you said it, right? Like, JJ was a freshman last year as well, right? She redshirted her first year at Maryland. So last year was her freshman season. And to be a goalie and, seeing the amazing shooters that are competing at the schools that we play against, her eyes were wide open last year, right? And she learned a lot as the season went on. But to have that year under her belt and to come back this year, know what she's capable of. She's got a team around her that is trying to, play our style of defense that Laurie Kennis and Nadine Hagnaghi are working to put our group in to, limit opportunities and force shots from certain places. And that allows JJ to be successful. So that whole team effort defensively, led by her, is kind of the anchoring us on the defensive end. She's had a really good 2 games so far. And so, she's just, I'm proud of her growth and excited for what's ahead. I think she's not even near her ceiling as a goalkeeper, and it's going to be fun to watch over her career.
Cathy, I wanted to ask, this year's team, obviously, ton of potential on it, right? You obviously have a returning talent, stuff like that. Next year, though, you have the number 1 player in the class coming in, who also happens to be your daughter. Can you just tell us a little bit? You've coached here for so long, right? And you have these teams that, always come through. And I imagine each year is a unique year, right? But you talk to coaches who have their sons or daughters play for them, and they really say it almost like forces them to like take a step back to realize how cool that is. Have you thought about that at all? Like the chance to coach your daughter and what that'll mean for not only you and her, but just kind of the Reese family and overall, like, an appreciation for what your career has brought you.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. And I probably haven't really taken all that in as much as I will once she steps foot on campus. But I will say, even starting with my older boys, right, for them to have the chance to play for Coach Tillman, and those guys on the men's program, it's been something that has been so cool to watch. They're not only just growing into great players, but they're a part of one of the best teams in the country and play for the best coaching staff in the country. And they're really just loving their experience at Maryland. And so, for me to have the chance to have my daughter come in, she plays for my husband now in high school. So he's had the chance to coach all of them. He's coached both the boys and has coached her. And I've just never had that opportunity. But excited for what she brings. She's grown up around Maryland lacrosse. She's grown up a Terp. She has so many awesome people that she's looked up to throughout, her kind of youth until where she is now. And for her to have a chance to put on a Maryland uniform and have that experience as well is something, does make me a little emotional. I'm just really excited for her. She's a great player. She's competitive. She's talented. And so I know that she has what it takes to come in and contribute to Maryland and help us continue our quest for Big Ten and national championships.
What's it like recruiting your daughter? As the pitch, I'd imagine, is probably a little easier than it might be for a typical number 1 recruit. Is it kind of like I'd imagine you obviously have to tell her about, certain things, but is it one of those where you don't need to be talking or harping on it at the dinner table every night? It can kind of be like a little bit of a, elephant in the room type situation. Tell us what it's like recruiting, a player that's the caliber of your daughter, but also your daughter.
No, that's funny. It was interesting because it's like early on, in the summer before, we're allowed to contact recruits of September 1st of their junior year. So that summer leading up to it is a really big, there's a lot of recruiting opportunities, right? And kids are out there playing, and she's playing and everything. And I'm like, if you really want to go somewhere different, you need to let me know so I can tell people, because it's just an awkward thing, right? I think there's probably an assumption that she was going to go to Maryland, but, of course, she could have a lot of opportunities ahead of her for sure. And so when we hit September 1st, I think I sent her a text at midnight probably. And then, probably it's an illegal home visit, I guess, because I'm in her home at midnight. But the next day, we were getting ready for some Zooms with some of the other 26 recruits. And so put her on just to check it out. And we were going through things. And she's like, can I just be done? Like, I'm coming to Maryland, let's move on and do this. So it was unique, but, she did hear from some other places and was able to have some conversations too. But, it's just a different journey. Everybody's recruiting journey is a little bit different. And hers was unique for sure. But I'm just really excited and confident in her and her decision to come here, and just the opportunities that are going to be available for her to kind of achieve all of her dreams at the University of Maryland.
Right. The NCAA, they gotta make sure that those home visits, be careful.
Texting. I'm like, I got to text you at midnight. Yeah. I can't,
texting your daughter could be a violation, apparently.
I assume that's nice for her perspective. You kind of mentioned it from the recruiting process where she's like, you know what, I'm just ready to be done with this. As you know, a lot of number one recruits in the country are probably hearing from so many different schools. And from her perspective, it's like, I kind of already know where I'm going. Like my hands are off. I can still just focus on improving my game instead of having these outside distractions about where I'm going to go, these camps I'm going to play and try to get recruited. I assume from her perspective, it was kind of a weight off her shoulders once she decided, okay, I'm coming to Maryland. Like it just, everything flows more naturally, obviously, because of your relationship.
I hope, and it was one of these things too, where, um, you know, had she not, we were recruiting her. I mean, she's a great fit for the Terps. And so it's a decision that as a parent, you want your daughter to have the experience to go through and try to figure out, what lies ahead for them. But for her too, with her two brothers here and having grown up around Maryland lacrosse, like this is something she's really passionate about and, ready to compete for championships and ready to be a part of this team and on the journey here. And so, everything is what it is. She's got a senior season ahead of her. She just wrapped up basketball season. They just, won the basketball championship. And so that kind of chapter closes and we look for lacrosse and see what they can do this spring. They won the championship last year. So we'll see what Brian and Kaden can do this spring as far as getting it going again.
Speaking of recruiting, I wanted to ask you how you have seen recruiting shift in a non-rev sport like women's lacrosse since the introduction of NIL and now revenue sharing. Obviously, you guys are one of the more premier programs, I would say, across all non-rev sports here at Maryland. And you got the new facility, stuff like that. So it's clear the university is investing money into the program. But I do want to ask, I know Missy Mahar has sometimes talked about the differences that non-rev sports will now face, that there's revenue sharing and NIL is such a big deal. How has it impacted your program? And how do you feel about the future of kind of these non-rev sports and what the NCAA might have to do to preserve, I think, some of the concerns that people have?
Yeah, well, I think the concerns are valid, right? I feel like there's still so many unknowns. We're just really entering into the rev share times, and we've had a change in administration here. When Damon left and Jim came in, and just kind of the approach to the whole rev share and to NIL revenue generation and stuff like that, it's just been a little different. So things are settling. But when you go out and recruit, we're all just operating. It's not an even playing field anymore. We're all operating with different resources, with different numbers of scholarships, maybe with different NIL money that some schools are able to give more money to get kids to come, and their packages are different. So I just think as we start to work forward through this, we're just all operating with different resources. And so a lot of this will develop over time. And as we go and we see kind of where we are, what we're competing against, and a lot of people don't even know, you don't know what other schools have. You can hear things through the grapevine, but it's very different when you're a part of a school that's opted in to this rev share thing and a school that hasn't. We're limited by roster numbers now, which changes the way that you do things. You got to maybe take smaller classes to hold opportunities for kids coming out of the transfer portal. So it really just shifts a lot of your thinking and everything that you're doing. But I think for us, fortunate here at Maryland, being lacrosse at Maryland, with a great leadership group that is committed to our non-revenue sports and helping us still remain competitive and remain at the top of the group. And so I have confidence in that, but you don't really know what everybody's so different, right? You just don't really know what you're even going up against.
Do you have any concerns about programs, maybe not even at Maryland, other programs being able to keep a program like women's lacrosse as the years move forward?
Yeah, I do, because I think there's going to be, you don't really know what the shift in the landscape of all of it's going to look like, right? As more money gets funneled into certain sports, they could cut certain sports to save money to try to replace that. You guys are seeing all the things that are coming out on Twitter with athletic departments and where they are and how much money sports are losing and stuff. And I just think there's probably a lot of pieces that go into the decisions for the powers that be at each institution to do what they need to do financially to run their programs, their athletic departments the way they are. So I do think there's a concern. I do think with women's lacrosse, we are actually still adding programs, which has been pretty cool. In our tournament, we're up to 29 teams in the NCAA tournament. So our sport is is bigger, and we're getting more exposure, and there's more television opportunities. You can see Big Ten Network and ESPN and ESPN Plus and BTN. Like, we're picking up so many games, and so the exposure's out there. Lacrosse on the horizon, hitting the Olympics in 2028 is a new kind of vision and feel for the sport too. So we're just in unique times, right? I don't think people predicted this to be this way it is. And now we've got to figure out kind of where we're headed for NCAA, for each of the sports individually and stuff too. But yes, I know there's a concern about schools continuing to sponsor all the sports that they do. But lacrosse itself is women's lacrosse is positioning themselves to be a really, attractive sport for schools to have.
Yeah, I think you kind of mentioned it, how the landscape will change, whether it'll be cutting programs or maybe having different rules around the number of players you can have on your team. Some of those cuts might come as well. I want to ask you also, earlier mentioned your two sons obviously playing on the men's team here. How do you balance kind of following that team, staying up with your sons while also having time to coach the women's team here?
Well, just really proud of both of them. They're both just they're doing great. They're having a great time. Great leaders, great teammates, and just doing everything they need to do. It's hard. What I miss sometimes being at their games, it's just tough when we cross over. But so far, my husband and I drove up to Syracuse on Friday. I practiced in the morning and then got in the car and drove 5.5 hours up, watched the game, and drove 5.5 hours back and played Virginia the next day. And so sometimes you just kind of do what you need to do to make it work. We play this week, Wednesday and Friday, and the men play Princeton on Saturday. So I get to go to that game. So it's really nice when it works out. But they're surrounded by just such great teammates and families. And again, their coaching staff, there's no one better. And so I love how much they're loving Maryland. That makes me really happy. It is pretty cool this year. We're redoing our field at Field Hockey Lax. So we're playing our games in the football stadium. And so, I do run into them more often over there, whether they like it or not. I'm just like, oh, hey, they come out to practice after us. And so we do cross paths more than normal for this season. But, our men's team is so good. They're so strong and fun to watch. And so I'm excited to see kind of how their season goes this year and support them in any way I can.
Cathy, I wanted to ask, your team has had a lot of success, in the regular season of recent years and in the tournament. But I think, everyone knows that you guys are defined on how you do in the postseason, right? You've set that standard for yourself. It hasn't necessarily, lived up to that in recent years. You guys haven't won a championship, in the past couple of seasons since 2019, I believe. What do you think it is that's prevented you guys from making it to the championship, making it to that semifinal round? And how do you think you can go about, not only this year, but as you continue to get further and further in your coaching tenure, kind of get back to the pinnacle of the sport?
Yeah, well, obviously we're trying, and trying to get there every year. And it's tough. Our sport is tough. Like I said, teams are adding and growing, and some teams are funded differently right now. So it opens up the doors for recruiting classes to go different directions. For us after COVID, when everything kind of shut down, one of the things that I think is really special about Maryland lacrosse is our culture and our chemistry and how much we rely on each other and lean on each other. And during COVID, everyone was a little bit more separated, right? We had to kind of keep distances. You couldn't do that. And so we had to rebuild that for our year in 20. So 20 was canceled. 21 was Big Ten only. In 22, it started, and we were back in the Final Four in 22. Is it 22? Yeah, 3, 4, 5. And so we fell short, obviously, of getting back to that Final Four and competing with that. But, our chemistry is where it needs to be. Our culture is where it is. These girls love each other. They're passionate about lacrosse and Maryland and playing together and working their tails off to be the best they can. I think we put in this year a lot more work outside of practice. They came in at a different level, just as far as the controllables like stick work and fitness and that kind of stuff. So that's been really helpful, as our foundation was a little stronger than it's been in years past and a little higher. But I do think our landscape of our sport is changing, right? Like there's a lot more teams adding and playing, and the resources and the funding of different places are, like I said, different everywhere you go. And so nothing's easy. It's hard to win. And so far where we are at 2-0 in the season against two tough ACC opponents, we're grinding right now, and these guys, we got 2 more games this week. We just got to keep our foot on the gas and keep getting better and worry about taking things one game at a time. And it is hard because there's a lot of just expectations at Maryland for lacrosse, for both the men and the women, is that we're expected to be in the Final Four. And some of it it's on ourselves. We do it to ourselves. Because of our history. We were at like 12 of 13 in a row at one point, competing in the Final Four, and we'll have won 5 national championships out of 20 coaching here. And so it's a lot of pressure and expectation, but we do it to ourselves, but we want to be at that level. And so, I know if you ask any of our girls, that's what we're shooting for. But at the same time, the way that we get there is by doing things one day at a time and one game at a time. And so important that we stay in the present and don't get too far ahead of ourselves. But those losses in the round of 16 are just not where we want to be. And so we'll get there when we get there. But first things first, we got to look to go 1-0 on Wednesday against Caitlin, who coached here for 12 years or whatever it was, forever, who I adore, and her assistant Alice Mercer, who I adore. So it's we're going to get another tough game on Wednesday, and that's how this season is. We play a really hard schedule, but we've got to look to bring it. Go 1-0 every time we play.
Absolutely. Well, we look forward to watching it throughout the rest of the season, and good luck on the road this week.
Thank you.
Well, that was good stuff from Coach Reese. Really liked hearing about how the NCAA could potentially punish her for recruiting her daughter. That was some good stuff. You love to hear it, Brendan. Fun interview, but let's talk about the current sports teams. One of the squads that's in the news from the early week, Maryland football, hired a new offensive coordinator, bringing in Clint Trickett, who basically took a job at Arkansas as their quarterbacks coach this offseason, leaving Ryan Silverfield's staff at Arkansas to join Michael Locksley's at Maryland, getting a position upgrade. CBS Sports reporting that Pep Hamilton is expected to kind of shift into a senior advisor type role. So a year after Locksley talked so much about how Pep Hamilton was the goods, he's demoted from OC. But I do think that this move is intriguing, to say the least. I don't know if I love it. I don't know if I hate it, but I am intrigued. And I think that's not a bad place to be for a coach who's kind of heading into a make or break season. You probably like to have a sure thing, but he's bringing in somebody who's an outside voice who we know is going to bring some different ideas. Michael, what was your first impression of Maryland's new play caller?
Well, you can tell there's a little bit of a sense of urgency within the building. This is now the 5th offensive coordinator Mike Locksley is having in his tenure at Maryland, heading into his 8th year. You can tell there's some urgency in the building. This is a make or break year for the staff, and especially for Mike Locksley. I am intrigued at his age and how he's a little bit of a younger candidate, especially since with Pep Hamilton, you were getting someone who's coached college, who's coached NFL. He's been in the ranks for a while. He's just 34 years old, so this is definitely a fresh start for the program. I'm intrigued to see how he can help this Terps running game, especially since Jacksonville State was proficient in their rushing attack last season.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting move for sure. I was surprised that Pep Hamilton would not return as OC, not necessarily because of what he did on the field. I think if you had analyzed Pep Hamilton's work through 4 weeks, you would have said he's doing a very good job last season. I just thought the way they were speaking about him and the fact that they hadn't made a move at this point in February made me think that he was just going to be the offensive coordinator. There's 2 concerning things. I think, one, how many offensive coordinators Locksley's had, and Mike said it. And the other thing is, if they have a good year, who knows if this guy will stay? He just left Arkansas after being there for like 3 months. So, not necessarily a guy who obviously is taking an upgrade. He's becoming an OC as opposed to, be the QB coach. He was obviously just an OC. So I do understand that move for him, but hey, I would rather take a guy who's a little more committed than if he has one great season, who's to say he's not going to go become a head coach somewhere else. So definitely an interesting hire.
I think that honestly the biggest concern, neither of you guys mentioned it, this guy just doesn't have a lot of Power 5 experience. Like, he hasn't coached at a level of Big Ten football that he's going to be entering in now. His stops before this have been pretty much all throughout Group of 5 programs: East Mississippi, Florida Atlantic, Marshall, Georgia Southern, and Jacksonville State. He played high-level ball at Florida State and West Virginia as a quarterback. So obviously that helps. He played pretty well at West Virginia, was a decent starter there. But this isn't a guy who's coming with a wealth of Big Ten experience. And in a way, Michael, we've seen the past couple years, as soon as an offensive coordinator starts to falter, it's an instant pull the plug and Locksley takes over play calling. And this just feels like another move that, like, this guy's inexperienced. He's not exactly coming in, with a ton of reps in college at high level college programs, it kind of shows to me a little bit of the desperation, like you mentioned, to go from a coach like Pep Hamilton, who like he was lauded as, oh, we want to bring in pro style coaches, pro style guys. This guy's coach pros, to then bringing in a coach who's probably never coached an NFL talent, nor a player the caliber of Malik Washington. So just a complete 180 on the philosophy. And I think that just really shows, where we're at with the program here, entering Loxley's 8th season, which is tough to say.
Mike, can I ask you a ridiculous
Yeah,
question? We were talking about 2 weeks ago how Loxley had so much success under Nick Saban when he was OC. Do you think even if Nick Saban came back and was OC of this team, it would save the Terps? Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's a good question.
Like Nick Saban's OC, or Nick Saban takes over as head coach and Loxley?
No. If Nick Saban was OC next year, how did the Terps do? Like that's it's obviously a troll question, but like the conversation Mike and I had a couple weeks ago was that Loxley was such a great OC because he had such great players on the roster. Like at this point, it seems like Loxley's just fishing for a couple guys, like a guy to save him, and maybe it's a coordinator.
I'm a little iffy on how this offense is being built right now. Like I don't know who Malik is going to be throwing to. They brought in 3 receivers.
Added a couple of guys recently, right?
They
Mike?
got a JUCO guy today, Johnny Shaker. He would have led Maryland's roster with 724 receiving yards, but he was also playing at Independence Community College. So it's really hard to judge this receiving.
This is my point. Yeah.
Hey,
this is my point is how good
Saban would have had Dorian Fleming turning into like freaking OJ Howard, a first round pick.
My point is that no matter who is the coordinator or the coach, they're not catching touchdowns or blocking, or kicking field goals. So at the end of the day, a coordinator can do so much, but at some point it comes down to who's on the roster.
I had a question. I was trying to figure out why a Johnny Shakir, the kid you just mentioned, like in their press release, Maryland's like he was a highly regarded recruit out of high school. But then why did he play at Independence Community College? Like I was trying to look to discover what really went on in this kid's recruitment, and I couldn't really find much because there wasn't much out there. I mean, he played, he was committed to Penn State at one point, but then I don't know what happened. He just ended up going to JUCO, I guess, and I guess he played pretty well there. But as Michael said, the offensive construction right now looks pretty rough, and the offensive coordinator, the new one for Maryland, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Last Chance U. He was on that show as a coach, and he got chewed out by the head coach a few times there. I fear that if Malik Washington throws pick number 3 against Virginia Tech in game number 2, we could be seeing a similar effect on the sidelines. And that's just not a sight that Terpsville would love to see, heading into a pivotal season for Michael Loxley.
I don't know how to follow that up.
I mean, is that not accurate, Michael? I mean, I'm just being real here. It feels like that's a very accurate potential situation that could arise.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I mean, like you said, I think Loxley's going to have a short leash with this guy, and if it's not working, he's yanked.
Or this guy could be the head coach come mid-October.
That's a good point. Yeah, what if he just leads I mean, this guy did lead a really.
Is it a Jim Smith hire? Was this coming from Jim Smith?
No, I mean, let's not get crazy here, bro. Jim Smith does not know who Clint Trickett is, all right? Like, I didn't know who this was.
Jim might have some Tricketts up his sleeve.
Oh.
Usually this part of the podcast comes about 40 minutes later. So people who don't usually make it to the end are getting a real nice showing here at the start.
Anyway, so Clint Trickett, new offensive coordinator at Maryland. We'll have to see how that turns out. Real quick, guys, before we move on, how would you grade the hire? Michael Brennan, fire away.
I would give it a C. I mean, there's so much unknown. Like how this offense is going to perform, unknown. How is this guy's play calling going to be in the Big Ten? That's unknown. I just don't know. I got to give it a C.
I was going to go C as well. I think that he's definitely shown some upside on the running game. Don't love his commitment issues. He coached under Lane Kiffin, so he obviously has that part of him as well. So we'll have to see what he's going to be able to do on the offensive side of the ball. I do feel a little bit bad for Malik Washington, another new offensive coordinator. Obviously makes it slightly tougher for the offensive roster. Sam, what do you got for a grade?
I'll go C-, kind of sticking with what you guys said. Did some encouraging stuff. I watched some of their tape today. Mostly it's tough to pull up all 22 of Jacksonville State, so I just watched some offensive.
And also Independence U. Couldn't find there.
Yeah, I just watched some offensive highlights. It looked like he had some creative run schemes. God knows Maryland needs some run game creativity, but we'll see.
He's a high ceiling, low floor
That's a
type of
good
guy.
point about
I would say
Malik.
this.
Like, you bring in Pep to like develop Malik, and then he's gone after a year. Like, what?
I mean,
Well,
Pep's
he's
Pep's
still there.
Like, I think you got.
He's in the building
Yeah.
for sure.
I mean, Pep's there until his son is out. Until his middle school son is out the program. I think Pep will be there.
Are you saying Jackson Hamilton is not a Division I
No.
quarterback?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, Mike saw Jackson Hamilton on the sideline last year. I mean, did he look like he was ready for D1
Well,
football?
like you said, I saw him on the sideline. I don't know what he looks like on the.
I'm just saying,
say.
stature-wise.
That's fair. I don't know.
Anyway, we're rambling about Jackson Hamilton in February, so time to move on.
Yeah, let's talk a little basketball.
Let's talk hoops. B, take
Women's
us
basketball. Yeah, women's basketball picked up a humongous ranked win on the road against Ohio State. Not only was it a huge win on the road, it was a 19-point comeback win, by far the best win of their season, probably the best win they've had in 5 years. I did some research of my own after the game, and I said it 4 weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago on this podcast, after those 4 straight losses, they got to play Amira McLean more. Does Brenda listen to the podcast? We have no idea, but she's played Amira McLean more. In the first 11 Big Ten games, McLean was averaging just about 9 minutes per game, averaging 1.5 points. She's gotten more minutes the past 4 Big Ten games, 22 minutes per game, averaging 8.5 points per game. It's not even the best thing she does. Her defense has been part of the reason this team has been able to string together some wins, and particularly that huge ranked win over Ohio State. They looked down in the dumps, honestly. I mean, I was shocked. It was
comeback.
If I'm being honest, guys, the Winter Olympics were on. I changed the channel. I looked on my phone. It's a 1-point game, and I was like, wow. I turned it back on, and then I was shocked to see they pulled that game out. So very impressive win. And it sets them up to host a game in the NCAA tournament. I would be now shocked if they do not host a game when they really look like they could be a 6 seed.
Did not see that win coming. I mean, it boosts you 6 spots in the AP poll. That's pretty impressive. Brenda masterclass coaching wise. You talked on her playing Mir more. She went to a zone, like a kind of a triangle and 2 type look. I watched and saw the defensive adjustment. I thought that was really interesting. Ohio State has a number of really good shooters, and to kind of switch it up into the almost 2 and 3 to take Ohio State's top player out of the game. That was really impressive. Jelani Cambridge and Chance Gray put up 34 points in the first half. After that, in the second half, the two didn't even come close to that. So really, really strong Brenda game. And then clutch shots down the stretch. Saylor Poffenbarger made some big shots. They got some awesome looks down the stretch with guard penetration. Addie Mack played really well, I thought. Just a good game overall, and shows the type of grit that this season has been so impressive for them in terms of being able to fight through the injuries, and now to come back from a 19-point deficit, go on a 35-11 run. I mean, that's super impressive stuff. And like you said, B, positions them really, really well to make a top 4 push in the NCAA tournament. So great stuff out of the women's team. Mike, real quick, do you want to touch on just how good Aluchi's been this year? She now has reached double figures in almost all of Big Ten play. She's averaging 17 on the season. The last time that she shot under 40% from the field was against Washington. So since then, she's gone over 50 or over 40% in each game. She's not really shooting the 3 ball all that well, but she's just such an efficient scorer and does so many things so well. How impressive has she been here in conference play?
Right, you said it. Like, she is a very efficient scorer, and the team needs someone like that. In that game against Ohio State too, I just want to point out she can score, but she's also doing the things this team needs to win as well. She grabbed 10 boards, 6 offensive, and that contributed to Maryland getting 17 second chance points. They had 22 offensive rebounds. She contributed to that effort. That was crucial for them to win that game. Efficient scorer, and she does the extra plays that this team needs.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 games to go for the Terps. They'll face Purdue on Sunday, then they get Northwestern at home the following Wednesday. 2 games they should take care of, and then they go and face the 6th-ranked Michigan Wolverines to close out their regular season. 2-1. I would predict. I didn't think they were going to get that ranked win against Ohio State. I would predict the same against Michigan, but I was wrong there. I could be wrong again. The Big Ten's a bit wide open. My guess is they will finish with a single bye. I think getting to one of the top 4 seeds is going to be tough, but they still do have a chance. I think they can finish anywhere from like
No,
3rd in the Big Ten to 10th.
it feels like there's no. I mean, Ohio State's what 11-3 now, and Maryland's
They
9.
can get it. It's like they have to win out. A lot of things have to go. They're very likely going to get a single bye.
Yeah, I was gonna say it feels way more likely that they would drop out of the single bye than it is that they would get the double bye. Because I mean, they're tied right now with Michigan State, Washington, USC's like a half game behind them. Like it's very possible that they drop out of that.
It's so wide. It's absurd with 3 games. So how wide open the Big Ten is. I mean, the Big Ten has been so strong.
Well, yeah, in terms of the middle of the pack, there's just so many teams were like kind of right in that alley. In terms of the tournament, though, I'm picking Maryland over all of those teams. Like they've kind of gone through some slumps here, but I really think Brenda's caliber of coaching has proven time and time again this team's going to get the most out of their roster.
There's also an argument to be made. There's an argument to be made that you would rather maybe lose and finish in a certain position to avoid UCLA.
It's true. This team also like they're so I don't know, like they don't seem like they would be built for a Big Ten tournament, but I could be completely wrong about that. It's just like the lack of depth, I think, in that type of stretch.
Yeah, I mean, Garzone trying to play 120 minutes over 3 days seems pretty ridiculous, but it's probably what they're going to do, right?
Definitely. Anyway, we'll have to see what happens come March. We're getting to be that point of the year. A team that will definitely not be getting any sort of bye in the Big Ten tournament is the men's basketball.
They could get a single bye.
I guess, if you want to call that a bye. I
guess it's not a bye. They could avoid the play-in, essentially, is what you're saying. Yeah.
They lose to Rutgers in a battle of the Big Ten bottom feeders, 68-57. It was a nice little 2-game stretch there with the win streak, but I think it was just kind of a reminder of how flawed this team really is. Just tough game for both teams. I mean, Rutgers shot 41% from the field and won. It's like, what are we doing here? It just is a brutal matchup between 2 teams and 2 rosters that are just so poorly constructed. There's not enough talent when Diggy Coit plays the way he did to really have any sort of chance in Big Ten play. So we'll have to see how this season closes. I did want to ask you guys real quick, though, instead of focusing on the Rutgers game, we've talked a lot about Buzz Williams' kind of interesting coaching philosophies. And the Diamondback did a story. Our good friend, Ben Geffner, did a piece about how Buzz had the boys out at 5:30 in the morning for Sunday's tip. How much of this do you think is him just trying to see what sticks? And do you think that this is the type of thing that he could learn from maybe some of the stunts that he's pulled and be like, all right, this isn't working. Like, I don't need to have my guys up at 5:31 in the morning to go to chapel and then a 6:31 a.m. shoot around. Like, that just seems insane to me.
I don't know. I'm assuming this isn't something new. Like, I'm assuming he's done this at other stops. I just like.
Yeah,
it's hard to say that stuff. If you're winning, that's great.
Other teams don't do it. He has done it with other programs. But I'll just say, like, he was quoted in this Diamondback story in 2023 saying, as soon as shoot around is over, in a perfect world, I want to have it 7 hours before tip because I write every player on a team a note. The more time I have to absorb information, the better I am watching it, studying it, looking at the numbers, and kind of playing the game out in my brain. I mean, maybe we could condense that a little bit and just type them up or something like that, Buzz, because that seems like a little bit of overkill to me.
It is a lot, and especially in a season like this one, it doesn't look good.
it's a good way to like just lose trust. But if you, as we said last week,
There's just no way.
It's just something for people to pick at too. Like, why are
I agree. That's my issue. That's my thing. Is like if you're winning games, I don't care what you do 7 hours before. But if you show up and you beat Michigan at home and you get a huge ranked win, that's awesome. But if you get blown out, then of course people are going to pick at the troll things that he does. So it's hard to know. Like,
I mean, there's no way like Darius Adams is waking up at 4:30 in the morning and being like, fired up today, baby. Like I get to go shoot around at 6 in the morning to play Rutgers. Like, just
the thing is, yes, but also this is true. I do on some level agree with you, but also there's been so many guys that are like just Buzz's guys. They love his system and they followed him to Maryland and they're probably not going to transfer. Like, I think he's looking for guys that are going to buy into his system, which is maybe why in this like weird year he had trouble getting such top talent, is because he's selling a very odd and different system, and you have to be one of those guys who's totally bought in and loves this and wants to do this. I'm not making excuses for the guy, but I'm saying like, I think people that maybe the players don't love it, but I think there's a lot of guys who definitely do really like Buzz and his system, and that's why they came to Maryland. Like, if you have a coach who leaves and you don't love their system, you're not bringing 4 guys from your previous stop. But I know what you're saying. You know what I mean?
I just don't know if he's a guy who's had that many accomplishments to be having a system that requires that.
Fair take.
It's not Mike
Very fair take.
doing this. It's Buzz Williams. How many?
exactly. Like, guy hasn't made it. He's made it to the second weekend. What, once? It's like, come on.
More than that, but yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he's done enough to warrant that.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I think anytime the biggest news for your team is the jerseys they're wearing, your team isn't very good. I mean, that's honestly the biggest news for the men's basketball team today, as opposed to, who they're playing and where they're traveling and what their next big game is. But whenever the jersey is dominating the headline, you're probably not doing enough on the court.
Yeah. I mean, the women's team wearing them as well.
The women's team is wearing them as well. Sure. Yes.
I apologize.
But that's not like
no.
Buzz has been to the Sweet 16 a few times. The last time he made the Sweet 16 was 2018. So hand up accountability. That's on me. He's made it
left hand up
4 times. But again, almost all of those came with Marquette.
NIT runner-up 2022. That's
I don't know. I was thinking after the win to Iowa, the Terps might be in the running for crown champions.
Can't spell national champion without NIT. Anyway, moving on past the basketball squads, let's talk lacrosse. Disappointing loss to Syracuse. Brendan, you were hyping this squad up. I know Syracuse looks really good. It felt like maybe a national title preview, but Maryland was not ready for the bout with the Orange. Pretty clearly outclassed, it felt like, in that game. Can you take us through what happened between Syracuse and Maryland? Give us 3 quick takeaways. And then overall, just how do you feel this potentially affects Maryland's season moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, Tillman's first ever loss to Syracuse. He'd had their number. Syracuse played really well. You got to give credit to them. I think the biggest issue in this game is there are 2 big things. They got off to a very slow start. They went down 2-6, which this team, for Tillman's teams, are not made to come back like that. They're made to allow fewer than 10 goals and grind you down and win faceoffs and take time and get good offensive chances. When they went behind, they looked more frantic on offense and couldn't get to the spots they wanted to get. Also, at the end of the game, had some unfortunate turnovers. I mean, they ended up only losing by 2. It ended up being a pretty close game. They had chances to tie the game. If they play slightly better in the fourth quarter, we're talking about a different story. Brian Rupel did not play great. He had 10 saves and allowed 11 goals, but it was kind of the goals he was letting in, if that makes sense, let in some shots. I thought he would have had some shots McNaney definitely would have had last year. Playing inside for the first 2 weeks definitely doesn't help with that, but he did not look great. So slow start, couldn't get everybody involved offensively. Tillman said it after the game. This is such a new group of people offensively, still trying to gel together. They've had losses early in the season before and been very successful and learned from them. Sure, it takes the undefeated season off the table, but at the end of the day, we were talking about it last week. This team wants to win a national championship. That's obviously their goal, and they have a good chance to bounce back against still one of the best teams in the country. Princeton, they lost to start the year 7-13 to Penn State. Maybe not quite as highly ranked as they thought they were going to be going to the year, but Maryland getting a bounce back win against Princeton is something I would expect to happen and kind of set them on the right track for the rest of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we've been shown time and time again that Maryland's had these kind of early season losses, and it hasn't really determined if they make the national championship. So I'm not pressing the panic button or anything close to it. This team is still one of the 3 or 4 most talented squads in the nation. Just it's disappointing because as soon as you lose, right, and Maryland, all the hopes of stacking up with that national title team go out the window. But they're going to have chances to build up quality wins. It's now how do we talked to Braden a few weeks ago. It's like, how do you avoid stacking losses, right? He constantly said, focus on every day, focus on every day. Well, now they have a chance to turn the page and focus up against some good opponents coming up. So big stretch here for the men's team. On the women's side, they played 2 ACC teams, Syracuse as well, then Virginia. Women's squad went 2-0, defeating Virginia 17-9, and then Syracuse 9-5. We talked a lot about those games with Cathy, so we're not going to break them down a ton. But early on, just to kind of look at the stats, this offense playing really well. Obviously, only 2 games in, so a super small sample size. But 17 goals against Virginia, who has historically been a really strong defense, is super impressive. I mean, they're shooting 53% on shot percentages and taking, they're converting just a ton of goal attempts. They've actually allowed the same amount of shots on goal, both 30 for their opponents and for the Terps. But again, they're just converting at a such higher rate. So that's something I think they want to probably up their shot attempts. But when you're converting at this type of rate, you're getting good looks, obviously. So good start for Maryland. Kristen Shanahan's been awesome. Jordan Lipkin continues to be really good. Lauren Lapointe, again, another addition this offseason. Corey Edmondson hasn't even really fully gotten going. So when she does, watch out. She's shooting 800% on shot attempts, though, so pretty nuts. And then in goal, obviously, you have one of the best goalkeepers in the country, JJ Soriano. She's already had 29 saves. She has allowed a few more goals than maybe I expected, but these were 2 high level offenses, high level opponents. So
Also, yeah, a lot of the goals she allowed, I think she's played both of the games at full games.
yeah,
A lot of the goals she's allowed have been fourth quarter garbage time goals.
In the back half.
She's looked really, really, really solid.
Yeah, I mean, I would be shocked if she's not a first team All-American. She could be in contention for goalkeeper of the year in the Big Ten. She probably is the favorite at this point. So good stuff from the women's lacrosse team. Let's move on really quick, B. Take us through the rest of the sports and finish this out.
I'll take you through the rest of them in a second. Michael, though, he is itching. I can see it over there, itching to talk baseball. Thoughts on the new pinstriped uniforms,
I
Mike?
like both the uniforms for the team, actually. I love the black uniform. I thought the yellow numbers really popped on the back of the jerseys. The pinstripes, you're just going back to the classics, So really like those jerseys as well. And they got a home opening win in them as well, 16-3 over Georgetown on Tuesday. Braden Ryan had a really good appearance out of relief, going 4 innings of 1 hit ball. Of course, the offense also put up 16 runs, so that was working for them there. They are also coming off a season opening series win at UNC Wilmington. If you're Maryland, you're liking what you're seeing from some of the guys. LSU transfer Ryan Costello now at this point of the season. 2 homers already. He's batting .313. The freshman, we talked about him, Ty Knuss, he's batting .333. And they're putting runs on the board. So really like what I see from the Dirty Terps. And we'll be talking about them the rest of the way.
Very well. I look forward to hearing your nuanced take on baseball, as we always do on this podcast. Let's run through the rest of the sports. Wrestling lost to Ohio State. Branson John got a top 10 win, which was the highlight of that. Their regular season concludes in Big Ten play. Softball had another 2-3 weekend, and those are all the major sports updates. Any last notes before I hop into Terrific Terp, guys?
I think
very well.
Good stuff.
Very well. What an interesting week. A lot of Jersey talk. A lot of other stuff. A lot of good stuff on football and lacrosse. We're really in crossover season now. It's getting good. So let's end it off. This week's Terrific Terp was a former Maryland men's basketball coach, but one I don't believe that has ever been discussed on Under the Shell. Herman Milliken, known as Bud, coached the Terps for 17 years from 1970 to 1967. Notably, he was the head coach of this program during the move to Cole Fieldhouse and the ACC. Bud was born in Missouri, but actually followed a local coach to Oklahoma State. At Oklahoma State, he was an All-American in 1942 and captained both the baseball and basketball teams. Bud then stayed on as an assistant there, and in 1945, he was an assistant at Oklahoma State. They were known as Oklahoma A&M at the time, when they defeated NYU to win the national title. He then went on to coach at his high school, and eventually, after some negotiating, he became the head coach at UMD. His coaching style was unique, to say the least. He held his players to a professional standard academically. All of the seniors on his team always graduated, and he required all of his players to show up in blazers. The weirdest thing, though, is during timeouts, he would have his players lie on the floor so they could hear him better. Not sure how that works, but that's what he did. In 1958, he led the Terps to an Elite Eight and ACC title. He was a defensive-minded coach, and he focused his practices that way, almost spending all of his time on defense during practice. Gary Williams was a player for Bud alongside other Terp legends like Gene Shue, Billy Jones, Joe Harrington, and Frank Fellows. In fact, when Bud resigned in 1967, Fellows took over as head coach. After his time at Maryland, he lived a lot longer, till 89 years old. His unique coaching style and his first ACC title for Maryland men's basketball is why he is this week's Terrific Terp.
And another great, terrific Terp from Brendan to round off this week's episode. As always, you can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, anywhere you find your podcast. Thank you for listening.
You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast, the best in America.